So it's probably no surprise that I like collecting things. I am an archaeologist after all. We're basically the magpies of the human world. And as a magpie of the human world, I do like collecting shiny things, or in my case, coins. Now, given that I'm an archaeologist of the ancient economy, the fact that I collect coins is probably not all that surprising. Now, today I want to talk about some of the coins in my collection and talk about what they can tell us about the country they came from. But for that, I can't use this tiny little prop. I have to use the real one. So, let's get started. Hi everyone, this is Travels with an Archaeologist. I'm the archaeologist, now let's get into the travels. So because I'm currently living in Germany, I figured one of the best countries that we can go through the history of coins with is Germany. So let's go through some of the coins that I have through German history and talk about what we can tell from them. So let's start with this little one right here. This is from Frederick the Great in Prussia. And Prussia is what we could consider one of the earliest iterations of Germany, given that it was Prussia that united the German Confederation under the banner of Germany. And this particular Prussian coin is from Frederick the Great in 1783, and it's worth einen Thaler, which is about 3 Pfennig, or 3 cents. Now, that did mean a little bit more back then, but not by so much as to make it exactly a rich coin. And it doesn't really tell us anything. Or rather, it doesn't tell us anything we wouldn't expect it to. What we have is the royal coat of arms on one side, and its value on the other. And this is pretty standard fare for most coinage. Where German history actually gets interesting is in the next phase that follows this coin from 1875. Now, at this point, Germany was unified as a country, but even though the German people and language had existed for centuries, Germany itself was really, really new. And as Germany was such a new country, what we have isn't the standard fare of putting your monarch on one side and the value on the other. What it actually is putting the country on one side and the value on the other. And this is very interesting that we do not get Wilhelm II on this coin from 1875, despite the fact that Germany is brand new. This is because they want to send the message that it was unified and it was here now as a European power. But this, of course, doesn't really last forever. Now, let's take a look at this big coin. And this is from 1914, and here we do get Wilhelm's face on it, because Germany really did want to be seen as a serious European power and a serious European monarchy. It's also significantly more valuable. It's worth 5 marks of silver, and it contains that much silver in it. That's why it's big, and that's why you can hear when I clang it that it's very heavy. But we still see the unified German eagle on the other side, and you get the value instead written around the rim. So what they've done here is they've still wanted to portray a unified Germany and a monarch more than they wanted to emphasize what it's worth. And this is, of course, from 1914 on the eve of World War I. And to review your high school history, the Treaty of Versailles was absolutely punishing to Germany. They were pretty much given blame for the entire affair, told to pay France just about everything they had, never industrialize, there was no way to make up that money, never militarize, and basically surrender chunks of land. Now, we could go over the more long-term implications of this, and I think you know where this is going, but let's go just a little bit into the immediate aftermath instead and look at the coins from 1920. Now, this is only a half-mark coin, yet nevertheless, it's very poor. It's only worth 1/10 the value of the silver coin, but you can hear when I tap it that it is a much weaker metal. And in comparison, here's a coin from the exact same year, 1920, in neighboring France. It's a pretty significant difference, isn't it? And this is because France still had a viable economy while Germany did not. And on the back of this coin is Gisch Regen bringt Gegen, which basically means bad rains bring good harvest. And it is a call of hope for the future. And even though they had just been through devastating rains, such as World War I, they could nevertheless grow stronger. This unfortunately didn't happen. Instead, Germany's economy was only able to get weaker as the reparations got more punitive and interest accrued. And this led to a runaway hyperinflation, and that leads us to this. Now, this isn't a coin. My coin collection does actually contain bills too, and this is an original 50,000 mark bill. And the thing is, in 1923, that's not worth the paper it's printed on. That's a really big drop from that 5 mark coin containing actual silver to a 50,000 mark note, not even being worth paper. And this economic populism led, of course, to the next phase of German history, which is, of course, the Third Reich under Hitler. Now, I'm not actually going to show you the coin. You're going to have to take my word for it that I have it for pretty obvious reasons. Now, I am going to tap the coin here. And here's what the 1921 sounds like again, just for reference. And here's what happens when I tap the French coin. You can hear that Hitler's coin, despite the fact he created an entirely new currency to combat hyperinflation, was still pretty much worthless. It still meant next to nothing. His economic recovery was an illusion. And all of these dictators who come up promising to fix everything, usually it is an illusion. And this is in contrast even to this next coin I'm going to show you. Let's hear the tapping of the West German coin from 1949. That one is much stronger, isn't it? And that's because this time Germany's currency and economy was allowed to make a proper recovery in the next phase of history. And what we see on this coin is a further hope for the future. What we see is a young woman planting an oak tree. And this has obvious implications of saying we're planting something new. And unlike the symbolism of 1920, the symbolism of 1949 was not unfounded. At least for 75% of the country. See, Germany was split into 4 parts after World War II: French, British, American, and Russian. And the Americans, the British, and the French, while they maintained military bases and presence in the region, essentially withdrew following World War II and allowed Germany to reunify. Russia, or the Soviet Union, they didn't. For over a generation, East Germany and West Germany were split. And what we see is a big difference in the East German coinage. While the West Germans can have some variety, their coins are hard, they can issue commemorative coins, what we see in East Germany is essentially the same symbol across all times. And when we hear the tapping of the East German coin, that again sounds very similar to 1920, doesn't it? Let's hear that again. And again, for comparison, this is a West German coin from 1970. You can hear the difference. And part of this is because East Germany was being fleeced by the Soviet Union. Because as much as the Warsaw Pact was all under the Soviet Union's influence, East Germany was particularly attributed as a satellite. And you can hear this with other things. Here is a communist coin from Romania. Let's hear what that sounds like. And here's a communist-era coin from Poland. It's significantly stronger. And this wasn't an issue of poor either. If you want to hear some coins from countries we would typically consider economically poor, here's one from Namibia, and one from Nicaragua. See, what's happening in East Germany is that the Soviet Union is taking all of the valuable materials from East Germany to fund its own economy. As a result, what we get are some very weak East German coins, with the exception of the 20 Pfennig brass coin, which was used because these aluminium ones just did not work in East German payphones, so they issued a special brass 20 Pfennig coin specifically for payphones, which, yes, did cost 20 Pfennig. Meanwhile, what we get in West Germany is this. What we see is the oak leaves around the 1 Deutschmark symbol. And in this symbolism, that young oak tree that the woman has planted has matured. But this state of affairs didn't go on forever. In 1989, East Germany and West Germany began the process of reunification. And in this case, the West German Deutschmark was the one that was adopted. And this state of affairs of the unified Deutschmark could have gone on for a while, but it actually didn't. About 10 years later, in 1999, the European Union introduced the concept of the euro, and in 2002, the very first euro were released. Now, a lot of people, especially those outside of Europe, can view the euro as pretty uniform and standard. But in fact, every euro coin is unique to the country that mints it. And Germany is no different. What we see on this side of the German euro is the German eagle. And lately they've also begun issuing coins commemorating the various states. But what I want to end this video on is on what's on the other side of the euro, and that is the continent of Europe. That is something you will find on the other end of every single euro coin, no matter who has minted it. And that's because the symbolism here is clear. On one side is your country, and on the other side is your continent, part of a greater whole, a landmass without borders. Across languages and cultures, you can stay unified. And yet, on the other side, you can still retain your identity. Those are the values that the European Union was founded on, and the values that Germany as a founding member wanted to commemorate into these coins. It is not a rejection of their national identity, but rather an inclusivity of all the other identities who should be related to them. And all of these countries that split Germany apart from 1783, where this video began, they are now unified in one with them. Anyway, that's all I have to say for today. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Please remember to give me a like and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I'm the Archaeologist, and this has been The Travels.